Imagine taking a standard office desk, placing a free beer tap right next to it, and somehow convincing the world's most sophisticated investors that your little setup is a revolutionary tech empire worth $47 billion. It sounds like a comedy sketch, but it is the literal history of a company called WeWork. In less than a decade, this single business grew from an idea in a cramped New York apartment into a global giant. They didn't build software, they didn't invent microchips, they didn't discover a new medicine. They did something completely ordinary. They rented office space from landlords, sliced it up into smaller pieces, and rented those pieces back out to freelancers and startups. Yet at its peak, Wall Street valued WeWork at more than major world-changing corporations like SpaceX or Airbnb. It became a global phenomenon, a symbol of modern success and a darling of the financial world. And then, in a span of just 30 days, the entire multi-billion-dollar empire completely vaporized. To understand how a basic real estate business pulled off the greatest financial magic trick of the 21st century, you have to look at the master magician behind it, a man named Adam Neumann. Adam was a towering, wildly charismatic entrepreneur from Israel. He didn't speak like a corporate executive. He didn't wear a suit, he rarely wore shoes in the office, and he didn't talk about profit margins, spreadsheets, or revenue. When Adam walked into a room of wealthy investors, he talked about elevating the world's consciousness. He claimed WeWork wasn't just a place to plug in your laptop. He told them it was a brand new way of human living. He called it a community, a culture, a movement. But most importantly, he looked these investors dead in the eye and said the magic word that instantly unlocks billions of dollars on Wall Street. We are a tech company. Now, why did he say that? Because the financial world treats tech companies like royalty. If you are a traditional real estate company, investors look at your buildings, calculate your maintenance costs, and value based on your actual modest profits. But if you are a tech company, investors value based on your potential to scale infinitely and dominate the entire planet. Tech companies get massive valuations because they can reach billions of users with very little extra cost. Adam knew this loophole, so he claimed WeWork used data and proprietary systems to optimize desk space, making them a software platform disguised as an office. And Wall Street fell for it hook, line, and sinker. The ultimate turning point happened when Adam met a man named Masayoshi Son, the billionaire head of SoftBank, one of the largest technology investment funds on Earth. The story goes that Masa Son met Adam for a tour of a WeWork office. The tour lasted less than 20 minutes. Masa didn't look at the financial statements. He didn't ask about the lease agreements. Instead, he looked at Adam's ferocious energy and charisma. He told Adam that he wasn't being crazy enough. Masa's son handed WeWork a mind-boggling check for billions of dollars and told Adam to grow the company as fast as humanly possible. With an endless supply of billionaire cash backing him up, Adam went into hyperdrive. WeWork began buying up real estate and renting massive buildings in New York, London, Tokyo, and San Francisco. They became the largest private occupier of office space in Manhattan. Inside the offices, it looked like a paradise for 20-somethings. There were beautiful wooden floors, neon signs, velvet couches, and unlimited free fruit water and craft beer on tap. They held massive, mandatory summer camps where employees flew out to festivals, drank heavily, and listened to Adam give late-night speeches about conquering the world. To the outside world, WeWork was an unstoppable juggernaut. It was the future of work. But underneath the beautiful rugs and the free beer, a massive financial black hole was opening up. Here was the boring, ugly truth that Adam's charisma completely hid from the world. WeWork's business model was fundamentally broken. Think about how they made money. WeWork signed long-term, 10 to 15-year leases with landlords to secure these massive buildings. That meant no matter what happened to the economy, WeWork was legally forced to pay billions of dollars in rent to landlords every single month for over a decade. But how did they get paid? They rented desks to freelancers, small businesses, and startups on a month-to-month basis. Do you see the massive trap? If the economy took a downturn or if a competitor opened up down the street, those freelancers could walk away with 30 days' notice, leaving WeWork with zero income. Yet WeWork would still owe the landlords billions of dollars for the next 15 years. Worse yet, WeWork was losing money on almost every single desk they filled. They were spending so much money buying buildings, renovating them, and giving away free perks that their expenses completely swallowed their revenue. By 2018, WeWork was burning through several $1,000s every single minute. They were losing over $1 billion a year, surviving entirely on the cash infusions injected by SoftBank. It was a giant game of musical chairs, and Adam Neumann was praying the music would never stop. In 2019, the music finally stopped. WeWork ran out of private funding options, meaning they needed more cash to survive. To get that cash, they decided to launch an IPO, which stands for Initial Public Offering. This is the process where a private company sells its shares to the general public on the stock market. But going public comes with a brutal catch. When you sell to the public, you can no longer rely on vague speeches about elevating world consciousness. By law, you have to publish a document called an S1. This document lays out every single dollar you make, every dollar you lose, and every risk your company faces. It is the ultimate corporate truth serum. In August of 2019, WeWork released its S1 document to the public. And the financial community stared at it in absolute horror. For the first time, independent Wall Street analysts, journalists, and everyday investors got to see the real numbers. And it wasn't just bad, it was a disaster. The documents revealed that the company was bleeding $2 billion a year. But even worse than the financial bleeding was the shocking behavior of the founder, Adam Neumann. The paperwork showed that Adam had been using WeWork like his own personal piggy bank. He used company money to buy a private jet. He trademarked the word "we" and then forced his own company to pay him $5.9 million just to use the name. He bought buildings using his own money and then leased them back to WeWork, making a personal profit off the company he was running. The public realized that WeWork wasn't a revolutionary tech empire led by a visionary. It was a giant, fragile house of cards built entirely on marketing hype, cheap money, and zero adult supervision. Almost overnight, the illusion shattered. Investors who had been excited to buy the stock pulled out completely. The valuation of the company plummeted. It didn't just drop a little bit, it cratered. It went from a theoretical valuation of $47 billion down to under $10 billion, and eventually the IPO had to be completely canceled because nobody wanted to buy a single share. Because they couldn't raise public money, WeWork was suddenly weeks away from completely running out of cash. They were staring down absolute liquidation. To save the brand from immediate death, SoftBank had to step in and take total control. But here's the ultimate twist that made the entire world furious. To get Adam Neumann to step down and give up his voting power, SoftBank paid him a massive, staggering exit package worth over $1 billion. Think about that. The man who built a broken business, burned through billions of dollars of investor cash, and brought a giant empire to the edge of total destruction walked away as a billionaire. Meanwhile, in the weeks that followed, thousands of hard-working, regular WeWork employees were laid off with little to no severance, and the company eventually filed for bankruptcy. It is one of the most dramatic, infuriating, and spectacular corporate collapses in modern history. A story of unchecked greed, blind arrogance, and a $47 billion illusion that completely fooled the smartest minds on Wall Street. But here is the real question we have to ask ourselves. Why does this story matter to you? It's easy to look at billionaire investors or eccentric tech founders and think, well, that's just a wild story about rich people making rich people mistakes. That has nothing to do with my bank account. But that is where you are wrong. The exact same psychological traps, the exact same dangerous financial habits, and the exact same structural flaws that destroyed a $47 billion empire are things that everyday people fall into with their personal budgets and investments every single day. If you don't know how to recognize the WeWork traits in your own financial life, you are running a massive risk with your own net worth. So, what are these hidden financial traps and how exactly can you spot them before they ruin your personal wealth? Let's break down the 3 major financial tips you need to learn from this collapse to ensure your own money stays completely safe. The first trap is what I call the hype premium. WeWork succeeded for a long time because they put a shiny, expensive wrapper around a very ordinary business. They took real estate and called it tech. In your everyday life, companies and modern culture do this to you constantly. Think about how you spend or invest your money. Maybe it's a trendy new cryptocurrency that promises to change the financial system, a flashy tech gadget you don't really need, or an expensive subscription service that promises to change your lifestyle. Before you hand over your hard-earned cash, you need to strip away the branding. You have to look past the beautiful colors and the smooth marketing. Ask yourself a brutal question: what am I actually paying for, and is the core product genuinely worth this price? If you are paying for the hype instead of the value, you are losing the money game. The second trap is confusing income with actual wealth. WeWork looked incredibly rich to the outside world. They had massive, beautiful buildings in prime locations, millions of dollars flowing through their accounts every week, and high-profile parties. But their actual cash flow was deeply negative. They were burning money faster than they could ever bring it in. Never confuse how much money flows through your hands with how much money actually stays in your pockets. You probably know someone in your neighborhood or on social media who looks incredibly wealthy. They drive a brand new luxury car, wear expensive designer clothes, and live in a massive home. But behind closed doors, they're drowning in credit card debt, car notes, and massive mortgages. They are literally one single missed paycheck away from total financial ruin. They have built a WeWork life. It doesn't matter how much money you make, it only matters how much money you keep. Real wealth is silent. It is measured by your net cash flow and your freedom, not by the flashy objects you use to impress strangers. The final trap is the most dangerous one of all, the sunk cost trap. Even when the major investors saw the massive red flags at WeWork, they kept pumping billions of extra dollars into the company. They knew the business model was failing. They knew the founder was spending money recklessly, but they couldn't stop. Why? Because they had already invested so much money and time that they couldn't bear to admit they were wrong. They kept funding a disaster, hoping a miracle would save them. In your personal finances, you must never throw good money after bad. This happens all the time in regular life. Maybe you bought a single stock that is completely crashing, but you keep buying more shares because you want to average down. Maybe you started a side business that is bleeding your savings dry every month, but you won't close it because you've put 2 years of your life into it. Or maybe you own a used car that breaks down every single month and you keep paying for expensive repairs because you just fixed the transmission last month. You have to be brave enough to admit when a strategy isn't working. Cut your losses early, protect the money you have left, and pivot your capital into something that actually generates a positive return. A bad financial system will always break you, no matter how smart you think you are or how hard you work. If your personal budget relies on you manually guessing your expenses or hoping for a miracle at the end of the month, you are running a massive risk. Protect your net worth by building simple, honest, and automated systems based on real numbers, not marketing hype. If you want to understand how the world's biggest companies fall apart from the inside out, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down the next massive corporate collapse next week. See you then.